Yeah. So, good afternoon, everybody. A very warm welcome to all of you, and thanks for joining this 26th, I think, webinar that we are conducting. And many of you do know that we do this every 2 months. So, this is, I think, we must be doing it for about 3 years now, that we are doing it every 3 or 3.5 years. And uh, the format is that I spend some time, like 5-10 minutes, to walk you through uh, the work that we do at Crossover, and then we start the topic for today, which is building trust. I know it's a very important topic for all of us, and it's a very fuzzy topic also. So let's see how we handle that in today's conversation. Yeah. And so let me just share the screen. A brief about me, that I used to work at Wipro for a very, very long time. So I was in the IT side. So I'm a computer engineer by qualification, and came into leadership development in 2009. And that was because I had got our chairman's award, the Best People Manager award, and this was given to I think 20 people at that time out of 2000. So we were very few, and we were asked to go and speak in the leadership program on what are the best practices. And I spoke so much that one day I became a trainer, and I moved into the leadership department. So I don't come from a pure HR or psychology background, but I have learned over the years. So what you will see in me is, bringing in a lot of real life business or real life work experiences in the conversation. And since it's a webinar, we have about time till 5:30. So, uh, and I'm using the same deck that I use for a 1 day program. So what will happen is that I'll keep telling you that if you were to run this in a 1 day format, what are some of the exercises that you could do in the journey? And I am going to share this deck with all of you, so you can actually run it in your own organization. It's a very important topic, I think, and you can use it to do a lot of things in your organization. Some of the times you will see that I run little fast because we have to cover a lot of things in the journey. But we have a nice group called Leadership Chaska. It's a WhatsApp group of people who have attended our webinars, and if you like the webinar, you can join the group. So in the WhatsApp group, you will be updated about the upcoming webinars. We will also post some of the things about this topic for next about 6 weeks. So it's a nice way to keep practicing. You can also ask question to the mentor in the group that, oh, I tried this framework but it didn't work for me, or I would like to know more about you, or more about the topic, or if you want to run this program in your organization, you can also kind of connect with us, and happy to do that. Yeah. So what we will do now is that I'm going to put this thing that once anybody enters, it will be muted automatically, and I'm going to not allow you to unmute yourself. So if you have any question, you want to ask anything, you won't be able to mute unmute yourself, because then sometimes it becomes very disturbing. So you can just put it on the chat, and also you could raise hand. So if you, I know most of you must be familiar with that, but if you go and look at the reaction button, you can go and raise hand. So when you go to that reaction, you can say raise hand. So once you raise hand, then I'll see you on the first screen here. So it will be easy for me to then call you out and unmute you if required. Yeah. So let me quickly, take you through one small video. It's a nice video. I think it talks too much about me in the beginning. So just, but don't say I'm trying to brag myself, but gives you good idea about like what has been the journey, why did even crossover exist, and how did we move, and what is our, uniqueness in the whole journey. So let me quickly take you through that, that video. It's a 3-minute video, so that will give you a good idea of the way we work at crossover. Yeah. So let me just share the screen. So okay. Yeah, so I'm just playing the video for all of you here.
Established in 2016, Crossover Leadership Journeys embodies the transformative vision of Yogesh Agiwal, who found developing leaders as his natural quality during his illustrious career in corporate world across the globe. After his recognition by Azim Premji 2 times at Wipro, he moved into the Leadership Development Department of Wipro. He continued to go deeper in his leadership development pursuit and was invited to speak at many international forums, including the Speaker for India at Harvard Business Publishing School Partner Conference, meeting Ken Blanchard, Peter Seng, Nitin Noria, and scores of other leadership coaches. Authors helped him bring world-class leadership practices to India. After creating the impact at Wipro, he decided to create a bigger impact and started Crossover Leadership Journeys in 2016 with a clear vision of holistic leadership development with world-class content, mentoring and initiatives aligned with business outcomes. Every organization is made of people and everyone comes with their own experiences and mindset, which creates a hybrid culture. Crossover starts with working on the mindset of people, their immunities to change, and bring an alignment in their thinking. Once the people are aligned, the focus is shifted to customers, talent, and execution using the Custex ecosystem. This ecosystem guides in addressing the unique needs of customers, developing talent to meet customer needs, and executing the project with various elements like offsites, facilitator-led sessions, supervisor involvement, 360-degree assessment, and a strong psychological base. Custex ecosystem is brought to life with our leadership development framework, grounded in empirical research and industry best practices. Our leadership development framework encompasses multifaceted dimensions: self, team, operational, and organizational leadership across the entire organization from level 0 to level 3. There are 4 flagship programs for respective levels, which are customized to suit the unique requirement of our customer organization, catering to the diverse needs of respective levels, covering the entire organization, with topics and competencies for respective levels. The rigor of leadership development does not stop at the journey of leadership, but it continues with our unique initiative called Riyaz. There are many ways of doing Riyaz, like using book reviews or leadership videos or leadership fireside chat. Crossover's unwavering commitment to excellence in leadership development has resonated with organizations across the globe. With a track record of delivering transformative results, we have forged enduring partnerships with over 200 clients, spanning diverse industries and geographies. Join us at Crossover Leadership Journeys and embark on a transformative journey of personalized leadership development tailored to your organization's unique needs. Together, let's work on the landscape of leadership for the ever-changing world and drive unparalleled success and growth in your industry.
Yeah, so I think this video gives you a good idea of the work we do, and you can also take a look at our website when you get a chance. So let's begin with today's session, which is building trust. So I've divided this into 3 parts. Like first is the mindset part, that how much of our past experiences and current neuroscience has an impact on trust, and what are the skills that we need. So many a times you might have great intention, but the way you communicate, including even the tone of the voice, the words that you use, can make a very big difference. And I'm going to bring in some of those elements, including a very good work by Judith Glaser. And as you might, those who are coming again here and who have attended the webinars earlier, I always recommend couple of books in the program, because at Crossover we have a very good in-house content team which constantly does research. So we bring in a lot of inspiration while we take the inspiration from those research, but we don't copy any of those models. Those are actually created by us. So you can see each of those models, and then I'll give you a couple of tool set, because trust is not something that can be like learned in the sense it can be learned overnight, but you have to build yourself in the areas, to really be consistent on developing trust, because it's such a delicate thing that it can get destroyed anytime. So the idea is that, can I practice that? And hence, I'm going to give you some tool set also. And so a couple of more slides, just I think as you saw in the video that, you know, in every organization, people come from all over the country or world, and everybody comes with their own mindset. And, you are building a hybrid culture, and then that continues to get you result. But if you work, when we work on the intervention, we look at what are the immunity to stay, change, bring in some alignment. And if you look at carefully, we are not trying to create clones of each other, but we are trying to bring in their uniqueness, yet be aligned, and then that gives you a much more higher result than if you were not to do the intervention. And as you saw that we look at customers, talent, execution. So the real business impact gets seen as we do the journey. And we have programs across all levels, so senior, mid, associate, and campus. And we look at all facets of leadership, self, team, operational, organizational. So when the people come out of the program, they are very holistic in the way they think. And the way it runs is that every month we have workshops, and which could be a virtual or classroom. And then there is a dedicated mentor who works with them to apply it in real life. And then they have to, submit how they've applied, and they can come and continue like this. And then we also invite the leaders from the organization to, come and address them. And that becomes very powerful, that what they learn from our side and what leader is sharing becomes very powerful. And then we do the review, and this journey can be a 6 month journey, 12 months journey, 18 months, depending on how deep you want to go. On the website, when you go, you will see a bar called Buzz, and you can click on this. So every 2 months, we do this webinar. So next week, you will see the topic for the next webinar. So you can go and register yourself. And in the same page, you will see all the past webinars that are there. So if you want to go and watch some of those webinars, you can do that. And some are very interesting topics on, I think EI is one of our very favorite topics. So you will see many programs. Last month, we did a program on emotional agility in uncertain times, minimalism, contextual leadership, networking, big picture thinking, conversational intelligence. Many a times I also get some very eminent, experts in those areas. So we had Ramesh Dorairaj coming in for the sales part. We had Ravi Chatterjee on conversational intelligence. We had Nisha, on networking. We had Harish on, aligned by design. So you can see that, yeah. So these are the webinars. You can take a look. You can watch them. Some interesting topic, and this one also will get uploaded by tomorrow. So if you want to share this with your colleagues, you can share that as well. Yeah. So let's start with today's topic, which is building trust. So I'll just unshare and maybe allow you to, just share with me, what is your current thinking around trust. So I will try and allow you to unmute yourself. So if you can, either you can unmute, or you can also put in, some chat, your answers in the chat also. So what do you think is trust? Just your understanding, thinking. Trust है क्या होता है trust? I know opening batsman में थोड़ा time लगता है. Somebody has to. Okay, so people are saying, Priya is saying, gaining a confidence. Okay, trust is the basis of any relationship. Okay, Prasanna. Okay, very nice. What else? Mm, okay. Okay, Mahinder is saying it's mutual. Okay. Foundation of relationship. Abhijit, very nice. Maintaining the words. Okay, Pooja. Very
Yeah,
nice.
walk the talk.
Walk the talk. Okay. Awesome.
I think trust is honesty in any relationship.
Honesty in any relationship. Yeah. Very nice, Tina. So the question is that what you think is honest may not be honest for the other party types, many a times, meaning uh, the definition of their honesty and our honesty also can be a mismatch, meaning, so sometimes that trust comes from integrity of the person, which creates the bridge between. Okay, very nice. Gansham has done a very classic definition of that. Okay, very nice. Okay, awesome. Good. I think a good starting point. So what I'm also going to do is that I'm going to give you some exercises also, which I would otherwise do in the class, but I'm giving you so you can practice with your team when you do that. And I'm going to send you this deck as I was saying. So there is a very nice activity you should try called the slice of life. So if you see this. This activity, it goes like this, that what you do is you can try this yourself, with a stranger if you want. So basically what you do is that there is a, as you begin the activity, you first write the key milestones of your life, year wise. So for example, if I were to look at, I would say that I think I started my career in a manufacturing IT setup, and that was the first break I got. And then in '94, I moved to America, and I think in '98 there was a layoff because of too much of that Y2K issue starting and things. So I'm also writing some of my good things in life and some of my challenges in life, and then I share with the partner, and this partner is somebody who is very new, maybe, and then you basically, kind of see for yourself, what was some of the things that you find was just common and what was different, and what did you learn new about the person. And what you will start realizing is that when you saw the person before, meaning maybe in the interview or somewhere else, you realize that maybe what I thought about the person is not what the reality is, and then you start seeing for yourself that, and the same thing happens with the other person also. And then you start seeing that there is a very different level of bond that gets created. But the important question is that, what is the risk that you took before you disclosed? And that is where sometimes the challenge comes, that, we are very doubtful about, should I even disclose this, and should I share this information with the other party? And when somebody shares, like when you shared, the other party also starts sharing, and then you realize that I think it was worth, sharing this, taking the risk of being judged, because when I'm sharing my vulnerability, I'm sharing my, downfall in my life, I am very worried that what will the other person judge about me. But then at the end, you realize that I think sharing has a very different aspect, and the bond becomes very, very, very deep in the journey. So try this exercise. And I know it is, when you try for the first time, it is little difficult because you don't want to disclose things about yourself because you have this fear of getting judged by the other party. But and I have been experimenting this, myself for many times, and I realized that I think at the end, whatever you have shared in most cases is actually kept very guarded by the other party, because the other party also is now sharing something that they are expecting you to guard that information. But the bond between the two becomes just amazing because you both have shared something that is very dear to you, and you want that to be safely, kept with the other party. Now, while I'm saying this, is something that will help you to build that bond with people. But why is it not so easy that, we are not able to do that? Is because of the mindset. And mindset starts building, very early on. And I know how many of you have remember that, when we used to travel in train, and there was a time where there were too many advertisements saying that, we should not be, taking any food from the co-passenger, because there were many cases where the co-passengers would drug the passenger and take away their things. Now, if I were a child and if I had that experience, maybe I would be very hesitant to, like share anything with the other party. But while that was a real scenario of, somebody we don't want to get robbed, but that same experience, and I'll talk about our limbic system, I'll talk about our rational brain. And those who have already attended some of my earlier webinar, you would know this neuroscience of our brain, and I'm going to bring it up here in the context of trust. And that time we, that plays very, in a very subtle manner. We don't even realize that because of that childhood experience, we, even when we are in an office, where say Abhijit Bhattacharya, who worked with me, at Wipro and is here in the session today. When I meet him for the first time, he's like the co-passenger in the train where I don't want to share with him, and it works very, very, in a form which is not recognizable. And in today's session, we'll try to bring in that awareness. We'll try to see that, why am I behaving in that way? Is there a different way to, overcome that default behavior that I do? So when you look at mindset, there are three parts. One is the genetic part, which is our predisposition, which is there in our genes. And many of you already know that, genes are inherited by our parents in us. And many a times, and right, different people, when we see around different cultures, different countries, each one have a very genetic response to the situation. And I'll give you one very live example as we go along in the journey. And second is the environment. So if I continue with Abhijit as my colleague, and if I gave him an environment where I started sharing my content, I started bringing in my session, he would also start inviting me for his session and sharing the content. But maybe when he joined, he came from an environment where people would just not share anything with each other. And in the first few times, maybe he didn't share because he came back with that environment. But later on, when he started, sharing, I started also seeing that I think more people started sharing, but the environment changed the way he was behaving in those contexts. Now, the third part is our own cognition, which means that it doesn't matter, which genetic makeup I am from or which environment I have come in from. I still can change that, and if we were to look at the first part, which is genetic part, so the genes or the DNA are like, which are we are born with it, meaning that you can't really change that part. But what happens is that every gene has an expression, and the expression can be turned on and off, which means that is in my control. And that is basically the way I influence my thoughts in my brain, the chemistry, the hormones, the way I kind of process my thinking. That has a big influence on the way I express my genes. And I remember my son's roommate. He was in Bangalore, and I used to sometimes visit him, and his roommate, and this is a very interesting observation that whenever you would go for dinner, right, the roommate, so there were three of us staying there, and this guy would immediately split the bill, and he will ask for the cash right in the restaurant itself. And so my son used to sometimes tell me that we're living together, but I don't know why he wants to split so quickly. And I could see that maybe it's a genetic thing. And incidentally, we became family friends in the sense he was there for a couple of years. So we happened to also go to their place, and I happened to meet his classmates' parents, and they wanted to rent out one of their places in Mysore, and I was giving them a reference. And as soon as I gave them the reference, he had like almost 10-15 questions immediately, to not even trust what I was saying. He wanted everything in writing, he wanted all that information. And to me it was a great experience that how you know the genes have transferred from, and there was nothing wrong in what he was asking. It was fair, but maybe we are known to him through my son, and there was no such fear that people will take away their property, and maybe that could have come later. But you can see how the thinking was developed in the way they were interacting. And the same thing happened with the son also, because he realized that I think what will happen if I don't get the cash tomorrow, so better my settlement right there. And it's a very small incident, but if you see the experience of people who are working with such people, is that they also start behaving in the same way. They're not trusting each other because they're very worried that, whether I'll get my money back or not. Yeah, but in reality, that's not the case. So the good part of our brain is that, it keeps changing. So there are like three types of changes that will happen in our brain, and I'm sharing you this because, whatever state you are in right now, it doesn't matter. And as I'm narrating the story to you, I'm sharing the experience to you, you will start to see for yourself, that, is there something genetic in me that I also behave in the same way, or, um, I see people around in this way, and we need not get upset with anybody, because the good part of this is that our brain can always change, and the way people get experience. So the change could happen with the chemical changes. It could happen with brain's ability to learn new things. It could happen with the way we physically age, So you will start seeing the brain getting shaped, and these are all interconnected, which means that there is a very remarkable, ability of the brain to really change over a period of time. So you can start seeing this happening. So if I were to go a little bit in our details, and you would have seen this picture earlier also. So this is the picture of our brain. There are two or three parts that I'm going to talk about. One is the limbic system, which is where all our experiences reside. And then this is rational brain. So whatever, like this, story of my, train experience, or my son's classmate, roommates experience of not trusting somebody else, or seeing his father always being very cautious about any transaction, is all stored in limbic system. And this is where our emotions are also residing. So if we, operate, by default behavior, meaning the experience of my past, and I just process it without me paying attention, I might continue to behave like this. But if I were to connect my limbic system with the prefrontal cortex, which means that my son's roommate's father goes through a program like this, and the moment he gets the emotion that, hey, maybe I should quickly get on to this transaction and get all the information required. And instead of fearing that somebody will take away my cash or property, he connects with the rational brain by taking a pause, which is the prefrontal cortex. He would start to make a change in himself, saying that, uh, maybe in last, I think, 10 years, nobody took away my property. So why am I getting so worried about somebody, and why am I not trusting people, at least whom I know very well? Yeah. So I know there is a little bit of EI element here, and I would urge all of you to go to the one of the EI webinar that I've conducted in the past, so you will know a little bit more detail about this through a story of Gita. And I've always used Gita as my character. And assuming that Gita is, my son's, roommate, and Gita's father is doing like this. So if Gita were to start changing the way she's operating, she will now pay attention to those experiences of, why am I not trusting anybody? Why am I not sharing information? And then when she connects with the prefrontal cortex, she can start, we call it as, a right side processing versus left side processing. So right side processing is basically pausing, connecting with prefrontal cortex, thinking about it, cognition. Left side processing is no connection with the prefrontal cortex, just operating with the limbic system. Yeah. So I'm going to take a pause maybe after a minute or so, but I'm just completing this. So the moment we start practicing this, meaning I am recognizing that maybe I am responding by my default and not by what ideally I should do, you start changing that. And you can connect this with my previous slide, which is basically our brain is responsive to intentional practice. So the more I practice like this, I can start seeing that, oh, maybe last 10 experiences were not like this, so I should not really get too worried about that. So I take a pause here, and maybe any thoughts, any reflections that anybody would like to share. Yeah. Any thoughts on whatever I've covered so far? Let me allow you to unmute, because I think right now. Yeah, you can unmute now. Anybody if I can also maybe unshare the screen and just some share thoughts about limbic system, about prefrontal cortex. Anything anybody would like to share?
Um, Maybe
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
add.
Pooja. Yeah, please.
So basically, I want to understand the rational brain, which you say is the right brain and the limbic is the left brain, right? That's what you're referring to, correct?
No, so right brain and left brain are different parts of the brain. Right now, we are only talking about limbic and prefrontal cortex, so which are another two parts of the brain. So limbic essentially has all our experiences stored, and prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that makes us rational decision. So if we just operate with our past experience, then we are operating with limbic. But if you were to connect the limbic system with prefrontal cortex, then you can make a different decision.
So you're saying, but limbic does not have a connect with the prefrontal cortex, right?
It has, but you have to make a conscious attempt. If you don't
But
make a
there's a
conscious,
bridge of rational brain coming in between.
no, so prefrontal cortex and rational are same. It's the two names for the same part. Some
Okay,
people call it rational, some people call it prefrontal cortex.
okay. So
Yes,
basically, when you have experiences, and though the time passes, I think we develop with a defense mechanism. That's what my experience is. If
yes,
I have seen something in the past, I
yes,
would not want to go through a similar situation again in the
yes,
present,
yes,
or giving a benefit of doubt to people that maybe this not everybody is same, or
yes,
not every situation is same
yes.
in both the scenarios, but still we go with the defense mechanism, utmost priority, and sometimes even if the person is genuine, and at times I think we tend to hurt also. I have seen this. This is
Yes.
genuine. I'm just saying.
Pooja, our idea is that right now, maybe the starting point is that am I even pausing to say that, am I operating with default or am I changing and giving a thinking around that? So in the case of, my son's class roommate's father, if he continues to be, not trusting people for whatever property he wants to give, he will continue to be like this. But the moment he starts connecting the limbic with prefrontal cortex, he would start seeing that for last 10 years I have never had this problem. So why am I getting so worried about it?
Maybe even if he does that, right, but he doesn't want to get into a situation where maybe health and money matters. I think people are very cautious.
Yes.
I know what you're saying is correct, but at the same time, these two things, when it comes to health or it comes to financial matters, people are very, or when it comes anything related to closed ones,
Yes, yes. So
cautious.
our thinking is that we are not saying that you should not be you should give your property without the due diligence. That's not the point. But I am saying that the default way of not trusting the world that they're going to take away my property is what we want to get him out of that experience, because in reality that is not even happening. But just because some of the genetic or past experience is making the person assume that everybody around will take over my property. So the way how people are experiencing is what we want to reflect and think about. Yeah, Pratibha. Yeah, Pooja, does it help to yeah? Or we will yeah, yeah. In the meantime, Pratibha, if you want to share, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think our natural tendency is to look at our past experiences and assume the future is going to be the same,
Yes,
right? And that's what we build our entire life on. The minute
yes,
we start making that connection, which we call it as conscious living,
yes,
it is not necessary that the past has to repeat,
yes,
but the past can give you a knowledge to
yes,
become aware and do things right in the future,
yes, yes, yes.
right? So that's what I would say.
Completely, completely. So, Pratibha, our idea in this program is that also to see, how am I operating? So we are not really telling any prescription that you should operate this way or that way. But is
Yes.
that default way giving me the experience to myself and to people around me? How are they experiencing me? Like, for example,
Mm.
my son would not have a great experience that you had a great dinner and suddenly you're talking about only money split, for example. And there's nothing wrong or right in the sense. It's still, I think, you're going to split next day, you're staying in the same flat, so you don't want to do it right in the restaurant, because there may not be intention of the classmate at all. I mean, she would not be having intention, but the experience people are going through is what we want to look at it from that perspective. Yeah. So that's the idea behind that. So, and also the next part of the brain, as you would see, is the automatic stories, which means that many times, continuing with the same conversation, that we don't see the things as they are, but we see them as we are. So, at one point in the webinar, I'll also talk about how some of our past experience create automatic stories in our mind. So including even there is a research that shows that people, the way they look, right, you may trust them or not trust them. So people who are good looking, who have a pleasing personality, there is a natural tendency automatically to trust them. And people who are not so, there is and it's culture agnostic. So you can see that across culture. And there is one more part of the brain called amygdala. So we spoke about prefrontal cortex, we spoke about limbic system. There is one more part of the brain called amygdala, and this also plays a very important role in trust, because what happens is that this part of the brain is actually responsible for for threat. So for example, if I am in this room and this ceiling is started to crack, and I get an idea that the ceiling might fall, so this part of the brain gets activated, and automatically the blood from the brain is supplied to the arms or to the legs, so that I can either fight the ceiling or I can run from this room. So fight or flight. Now this is very automatic, okay, and so that you could save yourself. Now this is happening automatic, so you don't need to be rational about that time. Meaning, I will not say that did we get the permission with the architect? Did we get the municipal certificate? All that is later. First, save yourself. Now, this particular part of the brain also gets activated when there is threat, which is not physical threat, which means that, say, assuming that somebody is giving you a very rough, your boss is shouting at you for something that you haven't completed, for example, the amygdala will get activated, because the threat is that I might lose my job, or I might feel humiliated in front of everybody, or whatever could be the experience. Now the reason I am bringing this up here is that we need to be mindful about both parts, that when do my amygdala get activated, and when do somebody else amygdala get activated, and when they behave like this, what is my experience with them? Because in trust, you will have to do both the things. You will have to look at how am I processing myself, and how is the other person processing. And as we go along in the webinar, we'll also see how we can use some of the tools to handle that. Meaning when we are seeing that the trust is on the verge of breaking, how can I do to rebuild the trust, in those moments, and we will look at that. So there is a very nice, model called path model, which means that first I need to pause to experience the emotion on the physical body, so that I recognize that and acknowledge the emotion. So there are many emotions that play in trust, and as I was saying that if I were to look at the first exercise, the slice of life, and the first emotion that I would get when I am doing the slice of life is fear, that should I even share that with the other person whom I am meeting for the first time. So the moment I acknowledge the emotion, I get a chance to pause, which means that I am now doing right side processing of connecting the limbic system with the prefrontal cortex, which means I am saying to my brain that, yeah, I think it is okay to share with this person, because I really want to build that relationship with the person. And then you harness, which is H, the power of handling trust better and situations in those. Yeah. So you're basically, using this model to not go by default. Now, whether it is a case of my son's roommate's situation, where right now he's just operating with limbic system, but when he goes to a program like this, he starts pausing that. So now you can start pausing in every situation, wherever you think that there is a trust issue with the person or with yourself. What am I experiencing in those moments? And many a times you will start realizing that this is the sequence that you will go through. So first you will experience the emotion on the body, which is sometimes scared, that should I even scare that? But then you process that into the feeling by saying that it's okay. I think I can share with this person because I trust them, and I'm glad that I am getting this power to share. And the way you process your emotion and feeling, you will start seeing that manifested in your behavior, which is basically you're now vulnerable. You're okay to get any questions asked, you're okay to even respond to them, and being authentic about your own self. And that builds up a great connection. And I also want to bring in this quote of Viktor Frankl, which, if you haven't read this book called Man's Search for Meaning, it is so powerful that between whatever you're getting as a response from the environment and the response that you're giving, there is always a space, and in that space you can actually start giving your response. And here is which is your response, that maybe whatever has been my past childhood story, whatever is in my experience, it doesn't matter. Now I can actually use the path model. I can start processing myself in a very different matter. So this was like the foundation which I was talking about, the first part of our mindset, which is to some form the neuroscience, the genetic part. The second part is about the environment, where I was giving this example of Abhijit, who worked with me, and maybe his past experience was that, people would not share content, they would not share knowledge, and he came with that mind. But when he saw a new environment, he saw an environment where people are very openly sharing. He also started sharing, and the trust in the team started building very nicely. So if you see this part, you also would see that there are a lot of managers, you can, and this exercise you can do when I send you the deck, that you can recall a manager with whom you could share any concern, not only on your professional front and also on your personal front. And recall a manager with whom you had hesitation in sharing. And how did this affect your performance at work and health over a period of time? And you will start seeing that the manager with whom you could not share, and I, in my EI session, I also talk about, like two system. One is like the sympathetic nervous system, which is, and there is a parasympathetic nervous system. So parasympathetic nervous system is the system that helps in regulating our digestion, our heartbeat, all the body functions, right? And sympathetic nervous system gets activated whenever there is a threat. So assuming you're at a road and you get get scared about something, the body gets into different mode. So the manager who you were having hesitation, in front of the manager your sympathetic nervous system was active, which means over a period of time your health will start deteriorating, because the sympathetic need not be activated every time, meaning you don't get the accident experience every now and then, right? Once in a while on the road you might get, or you, but if you are with a manager who is with whom you're uncomfortable, your body's response is like that. So I think Padma had a question. Padma, if you want to please share.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that at an
Yes,
individual level, personal level,
yes,
three things are very clear.
yes,
Genetic makeup that we have, the environment we operate in, as well as our own cognition.
yes,
I was wondering, how does it relate to a corporate environment? In a corporate environment, trust is represented by the brand. Yeah, the brand is what people trust.
yes,
Sometimes you find that, you blindly go after that particular, like Apple, for example, they built a brand and they have fantastic following.
yes.
The interesting thing to note is also that sometimes a brand falters, like
Mm.
Nestle with Maggie, it faltered. And
Yes,
then how it built the reputation back, how it built the trust of the customers back again. So I'm
very,
just wondering, in a corporate context, how does this pan out?
very nice. So, Padma, if you there is a very beautiful formula by Charles Green, and I put that in the toolset part at the end. So it talks about four elements in that. One is credibility, reliability, intimacy divided by self orientation. So credibility, if you look at the Apple case, for example, right, they are like amazingly researched product, meaning they have got world's best knowledge. There is no question about their ability to create, a complex operating system, all that, right? It's very reliable, meaning I am a very Apple fan. Like right now, you're on the MacBook that I'm working. I have got iPhone. This iPhone would have fallen at least 10, 12 times in last 3 years when I'm traveling in the aircraft. Nothing happens. I mean, it is never broken. This is my third iPhone. The third is intimacy, which means that how close the salesman that I went to an Apple store was with me, and divided by self orientation is that if you go to a shop and they start bragging about themselves forever, you just want to get out of the shop. So if you look at Apple, they have beautifully mastered this formula. So you go to Apple, they'll never bother you. They'll only come to you, and the guy who is on a salesman, he would have good knowledge about the product. He'll quickly answer your question. It's reliable. So in the corporate setting, this formula beautifully works. But ultimately, it's also about the people who are inside the organization, the people who are working with them. So slowly that formula goes up to the corporate setup, and you can see Apple following that. And as we go along, we will visit it one more time there. But very good question. Yeah. Yeah. So as we go along in this journey, so you can try this and look at this. So if you see this manager, this you can do this exercise, as we do for yourself, and you will see that the managers with who had created a big trusted environment, you will see the whole aspect of communication, the way people give feedback, the way there is team dynamics, the way there is a climate, you will see very different. You will see where there is this manager who is building great trust. You will see lot of people very open, sharing information. They are collaborative. They are respectful with each other. They are seen as a learning organization, because whenever they make a mistake, they don't blame anybody. They don't punish anybody. They say, oh, maybe we can learn from this scenario. So they are not at all defensive. So you can see that as you go along in this area, then as you go along, you can see for yourself, what are the environment in your organization, and you start seeing whatever you're learning so far and try to see how this is playing out for you, meaning which of the mindset that we spoke about is getting practiced in your organization. And these are some of the skills that the manager who could build trust was demonstrating. So the first was humble inquiry, and there is a very beautiful book, I think you all should take a look at it, called Humble Inquiry by Edgar Sheen. And I'll request maybe Bhavna or Abhijit to type it in the chat window. That's called Humble Inquiry by Edgar Sheen. And he so beautifully talks about it. And he says that if you could ask people, a lot of questions about situations that, are not meeting your expectation, and, what happened. And this is not just pure inquiry, because it is humble, meaning it is coming from a deep thinking that people don't generally make a mistake for any purpose. They have had past experiences, their limbic system, their limbic experience making them do that. Can I give them a new environment? Can I change their cognition? Can I make them think differently? That will change the way they are thinking. So now you can start relating, right? What I started with, so we spoke about the brain getting changed. We spoke about parts of the brain. We spoke about what that manager's experience would be. What was my son's experience with the roommate? Yeah, you can seeing that, yeah. So if we were to, like, if my son was to practice humble inquiry with, the class roommate, and start asking the question, body language, another very important, which is, I mean, I know Mehrabian has done, in a very fantastic study on this. So the body language can also build trust when you're with people, meaning the way you come across in your body language. So there's like the snip second, right? Automatic story. The moment you see somebody with a folded hand and very closed, you don't trust that person. But somebody who's very warm in his walking style, he bends down, you will see that. And then words and tone, very important. And last is the conversational agility, which means that if I am in a conversation with Padma and say Padma is telling me something that is not in agreement with me, for example, and how do I switch gears in that conversation? How do I hold on to reconstructing the words that I use, rethinking about the tone that I'm using, my body language, and my attitude in the conversation. So the agility to make that switch, and I know that while I'm giving you all this skill set, it is not as easy as I am talking about right now. But the good part is that if you start practicing this, if you start practicing this, you will start seeing how slowly you can move from a culture of telling, which is very common in most corporates, So the managers take pride in telling people, do this, do that, yeah. But that is just to get the job done. It will not build trust in the team. What will build trust is when you start asking people, what do you think about this? If suppose things have not gone as per the plan, yeah, people have not honored your commitment, how are you asking them? And the last part in this whole journey is about humble inquiry. And the beautiful definition is humble inquiry requires us to minimize our own preconception and expectation and truly hear the other person's responses, which is not easy because we almost like as managers have some idea that what is my reporting going to say, and even before he says we almost have made conclusion that he's going to say that when we respond that way. So there is a very nice case study you can take a look at when I send you this deck, that it's the case study of Anaya, who essentially joins a team which had got of conflict. There was low trust. The only thing Anaya did is she started practicing humble inquiry. She started asking people that, can you tell me more about this situation? I'm listening to you, can you go on? I would like to know more. Slowly started people started to realize that, and Ramesh, who was one of the team members, he said that he finally felt heard. That's when we started to care, which means we started to share more. So it's such a simple but such a powerful way to do that. And similarly, your body language. So you can, your eye contact, your posture, the way acknowledgement. And so when there is a situation, just saying, "Yo, I see, I can understand. Yeah, please go on. Let's talk about it." Yeah. So initially, it might also sound as if we are becoming very formal in the conversation. But when the trust is broken, I think having this formal body language gesture can really help, and obviously minimizing the distraction, not picking up phone calls, not picking your mobile calls, and also ensuring that your facial expression is matching your emotions. So these are like some seven, I thought, very interesting aspects of body language. And as you can see, how much of our mindset, our skill set are going to help us in that direction. And the important part about word and tone, and I know many of you know that tone actually has an emotion, and emotion shapes our perception. So, for example, Priya is here with us from our team, and if I want to understand, I could use the tone like this. If I say that, "Hey Priya, I need to understand what happened," is one way I am telling Priya. The other way is, "Hey Priya, I wanted to know what happened." Same words, but see the tone. The emotion in the first tone was, "I am very upset, I am very angry with her, she made a big mistake," which is true, but she will shut down. Her amygdala will get activated. She will not be able to, her sympathetic nervous system will start getting activated. And once the amygdala is activated, you become irrational, which means that you would have seen, people going in a very different tangent when the amygdala gets activated. And it is our responsibility, like Anaya helped build the trust because the previous manager would not have paid attention to that. The previous manager would not have really thought that my communication or my tone has such a big impact on the people. And I will just go to the last part and then I'll take a pause for the second part, which is the environment part, which is this is the conversation agility. And as I was telling earlier, that it's the skill to really adapt in the moment, So when I see that, with Abhijit or with Tina, I am having some conversation that is not going as per plan, can I really switch and, use all this body language, tone, humble inquiry to really bring the conversation back? And if you look at the beautiful slide by Judith Glaser, she talks about how if I am like in the mode where I am proving myself to be the right, I am like, using terms which are basically helping people to be very skeptic about the situation. There is a lot of distrust. But if I can practice very beautifully the whole neuroscience that we learned, I am moving from I to we, which means that I am, instead of moving from a low trust to a high trust, which means that I am trying to not protect my point of view, but I am trying to partner. I am trying to co-create something new, which me and Priya can create because we are solving the problem together. So a combination of humble inquiry, uh, tone and body language, uh, and conversational agility can really make a big difference, which is you are reframing the conversation without being judgmental. You're refocusing what we are discussing and you're redirecting the conversation. So these three things has to happen in a time when you're also very upset. You're also trying to deal with the pressure of your own self, because when Priya is not delivering to my promise, I also have my pressure to, tell my bosses, about that particular commitment. So how do I handle in those moments? So we completed the genetic part. We looked at the environment part, and then we look at the last part, which is cognition. But I'll take a pause here and just maybe any reflections, any thoughts so far. I know sometimes I do Vande Bharat in webinar because there's quite a bit to be covered. But I really want you to, in the webinar, get excited about the topic, go back and do your own research, think about it, and apply for yourself. It's so fascinating when you start practicing this, you'll start seeing a benefit of that, both in your relationship, in your performance, in your health also. So, any thoughts, any reflections, anybody? Yeah.
I wish sometimes as managers we face these situations where we get a question where you know that the person already knows the answer to it, but sometimes you feel like there is a particular intent behind that question, and
Yes.
especially when it comes from your high pods and a person who can influence the team.
Yes.
So at that point trust definitely comes becomes a question there. So how do we handle such situations?
So, my thinking is that, everybody is a product of their experiences. So if I were to look at the way, maybe in Abhijit's example, where he was not sharing any information and any question that was posed to him was not leading us to that direction. How do you slowly start going behind that, intent of that person? Meaning, where is it coming from? And it is so fascinating when we start in that discovery mode. You will start almost liking that person and not really hating, because you're no longer shutting down. You are always in the mode to find out, why is this person behaving like this? And you go back so much to the genetic level, and you start realizing that it's not that person's fault, just that the way they saw. And the good part is that we can start changing people, and I have seen many a times it takes time, but once that change happens, the person almost becomes like your Guru Purnima today, in the sense he treats you as the guru for changing their life, and it is a tough part because it is not easy for most of us to do that, because you just get irritated by the way the other party is behaving. So building that patience in ourselves, building that appreciation that people are not people that they were like, in the sense, if my son's classmate was born in my family, he would not be like this. Meaning, but he saw his father always being very grumpy about doubting about people, he also became like this. And good part of human beings is you can never be permanent. Meaning, this guy, if he was to continue and come and stay with us for 6 months, he would almost change because we trust everybody. We trust our milkman. We trust, like sometimes you put money in the dabba itself of the milkman. He takes money and puts the milk, like that level of trust we have. We trust our security guard next to us in our floor, things like that. Yeah, so it is the journey, Tina. We should try to find the intent, where it is coming from, you know. And the good part is many a times we judge ourselves by our intention, others by their action. So my intention many a times very quickly jumps to proving myself that I am right and the other person is wrong. Instead of that, we should try and figure out, where is he coming from? What could be the reason? And humble inquiry is amazing because you start asking them with that deep intention to make the change and not the intention to prove myself right. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Any thoughts so far? Yeah. Yeah.
So, Yogesh, net humility matters when it comes to building trust.
Yeah. Yeah. Stability, right?
Humility,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. Humble inquiry.
exactly.
Humility is like part of the whole thing. No question about that. Absolutely. You know, very nice. Yeah. So we'll move to the third part, which is the cognition part, which is the free will, that it doesn't matter, what is my cognition, what is my genetic, what is my environment. I can actually change the way I am like experiencing myself, and you could start like, say if you look at Geeta's journey, who is like my son's classmate, like how can Geeta use her own cognition? So maybe it doesn't matter what experience he has gone through in his with his parents, with his father. What are her anchors that are stopping her from practicing trust with herself and others? And what do you think? So if you were to use this deck in your own company, try to spend some time asking Geeta story to the participant, to your people whom you're running this. So you will know that. And you can also do an exercise for yourself. What are my anchors? How can I look at, what are some of my anchors that are stopping me from practicing trust, and you can also look at like the way Tina asked me the question, right? What happens to people who ask questions with an intention that write down their names and get into a discovery mode and use humble inquiry, use the tone, use conversational agility to find out where they are coming from, and that will really help you to get some very interesting insight. And as I was saying earlier, that looks also matter. So there is a concept called halo effect, which means that people who are very good looking, and if you look at some research, it says that people with like soft eyes, they are like being experienced as somebody who's very open, somebody who has a gentle smile, right? You might feel very safe talking to them, or somebody who has a symmetrical face, you will think that they are more reliable. It's a very interesting study. You should go. And I'm not saying that just because they have a symmetrical face, you should not say that they are not reliable, just doubt them. But I am saying that be mindful that those who don't have symmetrical face, those who don't have gentle smile, those who don't have a soft eye, you might not trust them by default. And you have to be very mindful. And hence, I have kept this point under cognition, which means that you're very careful about what am I thinking about these people. Yeah. Now, all that we have learned, like from our skill set, from our mindset that we looked at, I'm going to give you some tools to do that. You can look at some of the tools to build the trust. So the first tool you can try with your partner at work, when you get this deck, sit with. So for example, if I say sit with Tina and I asked Tina to mark all the areas that she is currently practicing, yeah, which is like proactively scheduling one-on-one with the manager, actively listening to the team members for their concerns, adding value to business by looking at benchmarks, recognizing people for their achievement publicly. Now, when Tina is marking, if it is great that she marks all the 9 boxes, But if she says mark 7 and I also mark 7, we can exchange our notes on that, meaning I can check with Tina, how does she recognize individual and team achievement publicly? Now, those who don't trust people, they also, you will see, not practice many of these, areas that we have written. So this is very nice for you to start developing. So this you, if you practice the 9 box and if you, share with a partner, you'll get a lot of ideas about, how they are practicing. And as a team, you could actually start, practicing together, and you'll also start seeing that how some of these boxes, you have to start using all the skills that you have learned. So you should look at your path model, you should look at your body language, you should look at humble inquiry, you should look at your tone, you should look at how are you using conversational agility in that whole journey. Yeah. And then you look at, this 5W1H. I know you, many of you would already be familiar with this, which we use in decision making. You can use here also in the context of trust, wherein you start, so when you are not able to get the trust from somebody, and I can give you a very classic example I came across. So what happened is that recently, I had a new client, and I was, they were asking me for some reference of the industry they were working in, and I gave the name of another competitor where, I got impaneled as a vendor. But I didn't specify that, we have not done any program for them, but the program is registered. We have got the purchase order, but we haven't started that.
कॅमेरा बंद केलाय माझ्या.
Yeah, and when we did that, right, we realized that when I was talking, so so she was very happy that we already have worked with the competitor, and we will be able to bring that in the program. Now, when I went to Pune, the first question she asked is that can you tell me about the experience working with the competitor? And to be true to myself, I told her that we haven't started the program, and I could see that my trust got broken in her eyes right there. So although she was very nice, she was telling, yeah, we will share you the details, and I could see in the conversation that I have lost her trust. Now, I told my team that maybe there was a gap in our communication. We should have clarified in the beginning that they are our customer more from a PO angle and they are starting, but we haven't done a program for them. And the mistake also happened to from my side is because almost 2.5 years. Can you imagine that I've been working with this client but not started the program? Because first time we took 6 months to discuss, finalize, do all that, and then the head of the business moved out. So the HR had said that we'll need to wait till the new business head comes in. It took 4 months to do that. Then we got the business head and we were building the relationship with the new business head. 5 months later, the HR had got laid off and another HR had came in. So I think almost like 2.5 years, but I knew about the company so much because I must have met at least 15 stakeholders. I visited their facility 10 times. So I knew everything about the environment. So maybe from that knowledge in my, I just told that I know about them. But so how did I rebuild that and how did I kind of use this 5WH? I realized that why did this happen? What did I say? When did I say? Yeah, why did who were the people who I was in the conversation? So using this, I essentially got back to the client and tried to rebuild my trust with the client. I told the client that maybe you misunderstood and maybe it's my fault that I should have clarified. But I also told her that where am I coming from, and I beautifully build the trust with the client. Because imagine if I had not thought about it from all these angles, maybe the experience you would have got is that maybe crossover tells lies and they teach things to the world, but they themselves don't do that. But I didn't wanted to leave her with that experience. I use this framework to beautifully do that. And then the last, I think, part in the tool set is the trust equation. And I was talking about to Padma when we were speaking earlier that credibility, reliability, and intimacy are the three things. So credibility is all about, about our certification, about our domain knowledge, or about capability. Reliability is, do you do things that you commit that you will do? So if I tell Tina that I'll call you at 7 o'clock in the evening, if I don't call her, for example, or if there is a missed call, if I don't return the same day, there is a impact on reliability. So I might be great in my subject knowledge, I might have great domain experience about leadership models, but if I don't, call her on time, there will be an impact on my trust with her. On the other hand, I call her, but I don't do any research. I don't prepare for session. I don't really do enough value in the conversation. Then also my trust will be not there. And with this too, the third element is intimacy, which means that is my client willing to share something that is very confidential to them, but they feel that if I share it with crossover, I think it will benefit the program. That is intimacy. And for you to build intimacy, I think all that we have spoken about is very important, which means you should make the other person feel so safe that they are like openly telling you. And to do that, our self orientation should be low, which means that when I'm with any other party, I should not be, you know, talking too much about myself. So I always tell about 80-20 rule, So I say, when I'm with the client, I should speak only 20% of the time, but 80% should be given the time for the client to speak. Only then you will get to know more about them. So there's a very beautiful formula by Charles Green. So if you haven't read this book called Trusted Advisor, I'll do that. And you will see that all of my webinars, we don't really copy anybody's, direct work. What we do is that we start thinking about, what is something that somebody has done, and can we like create a fusion to create a beautiful program, and that is where you can see we've got Judith Glaser on one hand, we've got Charles Green on other hand, like this combination we have done. So you can see the details of credibility, having expertise, being prepared, being honest, reliability is, delivering on time, being punctual, being dependable. And I'm just going through this quickly because anyway, you're going to get this deck so you can take your time to read that. Yeah. And you can do this with your teams and see for yourself, you and your team. So it's not just about like crossover can be trusted not just by one person, but you have to also, make sure that everybody in the team is also, practicing, trust in the organization. Yeah. And you can see for yourself that, what are some of the ways or practices that you can do as individual, as a group to increase credibility, reliability, and intimacy and reduce self orientation. So I think this kind of brings me to the last slide of this webinar, which is bring it all together. And it's a very beautiful, you want to take a picture of this, you can do that right now. So it's basically looking at three parts, right? What are my genetic setup? What is the environment that I'm creating for trust? What is my own thinking about whatever I'm going through? With the path model, humble inquiry, my body language, my tone and my words and my conversation agility, looking at my own anchors, who are those people who I, at some point, did not trust, and what could be the reason for that, or where did I pick up this habit of not trusting? And then lastly, using the tool set, so you're looking at the mindset, you're looking at the tool set, you're looking at the skill set of how do you use the enabling box, how do you use the trust equation, the 5W1H to really, build trust forever, So I'll unshare the screen now and I'll just open up anything that you would like to share. As always, I keep like last 10 minutes open for people to ask question. I don't know if Nisha is joined here. Nisha is one of my team members to create this program. I know we got 50 people, so I don't know if Nisha is there. But if she is there, yeah, Sandeep, please, yeah. Sandeep, you're on mute actually.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, please, yeah.
So I just want to share a picture of a father throwing his small child high in the air, and the child is smiling and laughing and having the time of his life, because the child trusts the father will always catch him
Yeah.
when he comes back down. And
Yeah.
the child is very happy and is laughing because he has that inherent trust. And of course, the child has not filled his or her experiences with the limbic system details that we talked about.
Yes.
But it's a very poignant and a very touching picture for me. So whenever I'm doing trust in any workshop, I
Yeah.
usually start with that picture and the rhetorical question: why is the child laughing and having so much fun? So I just thought I would share that little anecdote with
No, very
everyone. Thank
nice.
you, Yogesh.
Yeah, only my worry is that don't teach people because nowadays the kids are not as robust as earlier, so they might fall and we might have
True,
issues.
true. We
But
have to be careful.
yeah, be careful because nowadays the child are not as robust as we had earlier, so it is better to not throw them in the air. And even us, we are
True,
not
true.
as good at our arms to hold them, so you might slip the child
Very
and
true.
it can be risky.
Very true. Very true.
So very nice. I think good point, Sandeep. Yeah, thank you so much. I think we'll also request Priyanka to post the WhatsApp group. This group is called as the Leadership Chaska group. Chaska in Hindi means addiction, but here it means like crossover hosted association for skills and knowledge advancement. So it's a very creative way to put that. So in that WhatsApp group, we will have Bhuvna putting some related very nice articles, videos on trust, and I will also be available on the group, so you can mark me specifically if you want to discuss something, you want to ask me, boss, this limbic is still bothering, I'm not able to handle, or how do I apply this formula? Like the way Padma asked me this question, you can put it on the group and I'll be able to, answer them. We also like run this program for corporates. So, this is one of the programs that we do standalone also. Otherwise, we usually do it in Journey because this is such an horizontal program that every level can benefit from this program. So we do this as a one-day program. So if you like to do for your organization, you can get in touch with Deepika, Ridhima, whoever you have been in touch with, and they can do that. Yeah. Padma, please, if you want to share.
Yeah. So just one thought. Very clear how you brought out that if you want to be trustworthy,
Yes,
focus on becoming credible. You have
yes,
to focus on reliability. You have to
yes,
focus on building intimacy, and you
yes,
should reduce your self-orientation.
yes,
That's
yes,
very clear. In order to build trustworthiness, we
yes,
have to follow this. How
yes.
about the other side? How do I also use a similar kind of a framework in for knowing how much and how I can place my trust on people in a responsible or in a right fashion? Because in today's world, we also have to be very careful about not misplacing trust. So is the same formula applicable when it comes to
Yes, yes,
learning how and
same
whom to trust?
same formula, yeah, same formula. And my thinking is that I have been practicing that, Padma, that even if I get one or two such instances where somebody has betrayed my trust, right? I still have the firm belief that maybe that is because of their, past experience that they are behaving like. You remember, right, when we first met, and you keep quoting the way I gave you the content first time, right? But in like 10 years, I have never had anybody. Everybody is like Padma Kumar. Never they have always told me that they're using the content and whatever types. I have not had that problem. But when I hear people, they have that experience like that. But for one person or two-person, I think we should not give away the fantastic experience of trusted environment, with ourselves. Because I always bring in this element that there is a big, impact on our health when you start trusting people, because your sympathetic nervous system does not kick off, because the moment you are very worried about whether I should give, not give, whether he'll take it away, you're actually uh, consuming a lot of insulin in the body, and
So
that
at
could
an
lead.
individual level, I completely am aligned with you. I
Yes,
agree with you. But
yes,
when you are, let's say, in a position in a corporate, and
yes,
you are taking certain decisions in terms of whom to trust, how to trust, etc.
Yes.
And it adds another dimension because it's
Yeah.
not just your individual kind of thing that
Yes,
you
yes, yes.
yeah.
So my
Now putting
experience
up
was my experience like the Anaya case which I put together, right? So in the earlier manager really had an environment people would not trust each other, but Anaya changed it. So it is like up to the top, meaning, and if you start studying corporates, you'll start seeing that, like even in Wipro, where I was there for 15 years, I could see how things started changing when the leaders started changing. So very much possible by the leadership coming down. Yeah, Gansham, please.
Yeah, just to elaborate on what Sartaj just put it, I completely agree on your part that all the techniques that you just explained, like how can we build trust, first of all inside us and then take it up to the to our counterparts. So
Yeah,
this is just an experience that I want to share. So
please.
what has been happening with one of our clients is that we ended up trusting them not once, like n number of times. So
Mhm.
there has been betrayal. No, I not say, use that word betrayal. So there has been a negative approach from the other side. So
Yeah.
and then we get ended up called being knave. So
Mm.
so that's one thing. So how much can we take this up? Where can we cut this off?
Yeah, yeah. So my sometimes, and not in this case, I don't know much of the details, but I also start seeing that when something like this happens, there is something that they have not seen value in us. And they are trying to recover that value, lost value through betrayal. So it may
Yeah.
sound as if they are betraying, but actually somewhere they didn't see the value of the original quote. So they are saying,
Mhm.
"घनश्याम को चलो ऐसे निकाल लो," type is my
Okay.
general experience, meaning I have seen that like
Mhm.
Tina is my client, for example, so if Tina start like the what value I projected, and if you start don't seeing that value, right? And there is a contract that is already there. So how do I,
Yeah.
recover that value? So betrayal is a nice way, putting a dispute in that type, So somewhere I always put the onus on myself rather than the other party because that gives you a lot of insights about your own working, including the
Yeah.
way you structure the agreement in future. If you're
True.
true,
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah.
but in most cases, I have seen that when I have told my clients about this, they said, "Boss, हमारा ही पंगा था." Although it appeared outside that they are betraying,
Mhm.
but we didn't
Mhm.
get the value they were expecting or we promised in
True.
the,
Yeah.
so that's how it. Yeah, yeah, Pradeep. I think we have last 2 more minutes. We are at 5:28 and 5:30. We want to.
Yeah. No. I just wanted to answer, or rather, maybe attempt an answer to what Padam asked in terms of corporate scenario. How do we
Yes,
look at trust? I think trust, in my mind, is a basic building block from where we operate.
yes,
The
yes,
rest of it is information, validation, documentation, whatever. All those things will have to be done.
yes.
Is what my thinking is. So I just
Very
thought I.
good. Absolutely, absolutely. No, no doubt about it. But that is only the difficult part, Pratibha.
Yeah, I know.
Because in the moment you can lose trust.
Yes,
In
yes.
the moment, like, I have just one conversation you can break. Like this example of Pune client, right? If I had not thought about it deeply, I would have realized that maybe I lost the trust. In the moment I spoke, I could see that I've broken the trust. Maybe so. One way I could maybe blame the customer that why is they not trusting us? We have done 200 clients, but actually I realized that it was my fault. I didn't clarify fully in the first conversation. Next time now I'll be very careful with the new client. What I say about that, yeah. So good. I think we are at
Absolutely.
5:30. So Prasanna,
Uh,
we
one
would like.
last,
Yeah, yeah,
one
please.
last.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So basically, to summarize the last three conversations, Yogesh. So
Yeah.
basically, if there is an element of or a suspicion of a breach of trust, okay, I think introspection plays a very key role here. I think
Completely.
that's very important.
Yes.
And then that's what avoids us getting into a much worse situation. Let me put it.
Yes. Completely, completely. So, but the problem, Prasanna, is that we always want to, blame the other party rather than
Exactly.
reflecting on ourselves. So, my thinking is like we can't like first we should look at ourselves, and there are a lot of answers you can get yourself, rather than putting the onus because putting the onus will just not give you what is the issue that is coming up. And when you look at others, trying to figure out where are they coming from, like in the case of Tina, right? So just in a discovery mode, why is he even saying this? Why is he even not sharing the information? What could be the reason? It could be genetic. It could be the environment. It could be their own cognition. So any of these things
Absolutely.
can happen. Yeah. So thank you so much. I think you guys are really staying back till the last and
Yeah.
always in Tina and all. I know you guys come every time. I really want to thank all the people who have been repeat like Sandeep and Padma and so many of you.
Yeah,
So
one,
whenever
one,
we launch a webinar, right, we
one
always are
point
very
only
sure
from me.
that we will have at least as many people to run the webinar. So thank you for coming, and we look forward to another exciting session. Maybe we'll do it. What today is July, right? So September again. So every 2 months we do. So we'll let you know the date by next week. Yeah.
Sure. Look forward, Yogesh.
Okay.
Lovely
Thank you
session.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Selija.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Thank
Thank,
you.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
Yogesh ji. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Sandeep.
Where we will find this presentation?
We'll email it to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll email it
Thank
to
you.
you. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure.
Thank you so much.